Hello and welcome to the Blorecast, your regular serving of oral entertainment with me, James Blore. First of all, I'm very sorry this episode is a bit late this week. I did actually have something in the bag ready to go on Wednesday, Thursday, but there were two problems. First, my attention was taken by the more Blore video about sweets that I needed to edit, and so that managed to get priority. That's gone out on Friday. Please do check it out. I was quite pleased with that one. And the second thing is that the stuff that I recorded earlier last week, I felt like there was something that I needed to say that wasn't being said. I will put that out as the next episode, so just in a few days now. But I'll make this a little short one to say what has been on my mind recently. So just yesterday, I think in Košice, there was a protest on the main street against progress or against progressive ideology, whatever people believe that to mean. And it wasn't a huge protest. There were maybe a couple of hundred people. But I find the whole thing a little bit disturbing. Basically, society in Slovakia is kind of split down the middle, as I think might be the case in many places around the world, into more conservative people, let's say, and more, we could call them progressive, but maybe liberal is a better word. Now, I don't want to get deep into the politics of this because I'm pretty sure it's not my place to do so. But having said that, I do think there are quite a lot of non-Slovak people in Slovakia. I know I have students who are not from Slovakia and they've come to study in Košice, medicine, for example, or veterinary science or other subjects. And I think they might sort of struggle to keep abreast of what is going on in the country because they don't necessarily speak Slovak. They tend to study in English, I think. And I remember it was hard for me when I first came here to try and stay informed about what was going on in the news because, 27 years ago, my Slovak was not brilliant like it is not now. These days, I can at least understand, newspapers and read stuff on the internet, and I can understand what I hear on the telly, and maybe I can help people who haven't got a clue. I did ask Raul, one of my students, hi Raul, if he thought it might be a good idea, and he said it might be useful for non-Slovaks to have a little summary, and for Slovak people, this will just be English practice of stuff you know already, I suppose. So, I'm not an expert on politics, and I wouldn't dream of pretending to be, but I can just sort of describe what I see from the perspective of someone who is clearly liberal. Let me make no bones about that. I think Slovak society, as I said, is very much split down the middle, and this really seems to be the case also in Britain and America from what I see. Please let me know if I'm wrong about that in the comments. On one side, you have an extremely populist ruling coalition in Slovakia, which is headed by Mr. Robert Fico. And on the other side, you have parties, well, amongst them is one which is actually called Progresívne Slovensko, so I guess you can forgive the protesters for protesting against progress, although it sounds perverse, and other smaller parties. The populist coalition have shown a disregard for the rule of law, I think it's fair to say. If something doesn't go their way, they just get rid of that institution. Or if their friends need some help, they'll get rid of that institution. The first of those was the Special Procurator's Office. The second, I think, was the National Anti-Crime Agency. These previously investigated high-level corruption and organised crime. And most recently, after a conflict between a coalition leader and the Office of Protection of Whistleblowers or something, they decided to try and close that down. If you've got a problem with something, just close it down. There has also been huge pressure, I think, on the media. Basically, the Fico just refuses to talk to people who are not friendly to him, I think. And at every opportunity refers to the media as things like hyenas and just scum, basically, just completely complete lack of respect, I think, for the media doing their job, which is to challenge those in power, surely. In addition to taking over state TV, effectively, the government have purged a number of cultural institutions. So under the auspices of the Ministry of Culture of the Slovak Republic, it's dismissed nearly half of its own staff, including people working in cultural policy, analytics, and institutional oversight. And at least 7 national cultural institutions, like museums, galleries, and theatres, have seen abrupt leadership changes. You know, the directors have been removed and replaced with people more friendly to the government. There's also been increased pressure on NGOs. And since the assassination attempt on Robert Fico in May 2024, there have been limits placed on freedom of assembly. The assassination law, so-called, tightens restrictions on public gatherings near government buildings, for example. And many have seen this as a restriction on the right to protest. The coalition has also cast doubt on whether COVID ever happened. And one of its members said in an interview that, maybe the Earth is flat. How do I know? I'm not an astronaut. To be fair, I don't think he actually really believed that at all, but they are in the habit of casting doubt on scientific fact because it furthers their aims if people have no idea what is left, what is right, what is up, and what is down, in my opinion. The most recent thing is that the ruling coalition, together with the Christian Democrat Party, managed to get a sufficient majority to actually change the constitution to specify that there are only 2 genders. You get the idea. The list goes on and on and on and on. And I guess all I'm saying really is that when I talk about danger in the next podcast, which I'm sure you'll be watching or listening to, I think the thing that I wanted to say that I wasn't saying was that Slovakia is a very safe country, but the real danger for me is that the society is absolutely split in 2. And the fact that the word liberal or progressive has become an absolute insult from that side of the political fence to the other. And I'm quite sure that the liberals are not innocent of hurling insults the opposite way. And it feels extremely febrile, the whole thing. The thing that sparked this whole video really is a discussion with the guy Raul that I mentioned earlier, who's an international student of medicine in Košice. And I, together with the rest of the other members of the class, were explaining what's been happening in the month of November in sort of political news to him, because it's been quite exciting. And he was quite interested, and he said that maybe other international students might be interested to have it served to them in English rather than trying to piece together what's happening from the news in Slovak, which they may or may not speak well. As I say, November has been quite an interesting month in Slovakia. The 17th of November is the traditional celebration of the anniversary of the Velvet Revolution, but the actual public holiday was cancelled by the ruling coalition as part of its austerity measures, I guess, is sort of money saving. The whole country is in economic crisis, like much of the rest of the world, and they're trying to claw back money where they can. So they've cancelled one secular holiday, I think, and one religious holiday. But the choice of the 17th of November was particularly controversial. And in the lead up to the 17th of November, Robert Fico, the Prime Minister, was set to make a non-political, his words, not mine, a non-political speech at a school in Poprad. But one of the students wrote, before he came, on the pavement outside the school, in chalk, some rude things about that he was a traitor, I think, and also asking him how Mr. Putin tastes. I'll leave the rest to your imagination. The guy who wrote the stuff in chalk was arrested, but later released by police because it can be washed away by the rain. So there's no criminal damage there, I think. The trip was cancelled, and this whole chalking incident sparked a wave, a sort of chalk revolution across the country, where people were writing in chalk anti-government messages on various pavements and sharing them on Facebook. I can't really do it now because it's snowing outside, but that was really nice leading up to the 17th. Fico rearranged the meeting in Poprad, I think not in the school but somewhere else, and about 30 or 40 minutes into his non-political speech, a group of about 30 students dressed in black stood up, jingling keys, which is a sort of symbol of the Velvet Revolution, and walked out on him. which was nice to see, and it was all caught on camera. And it turned out later that the ruling coalition had actually several plants in the audience to ask Fico friendly questions, and one guy stood up to thank him. Thank Mr. Fico for what a great job he's been doing. And it turned out that these were actually party members, and there was a video of a girl saying that she didn't agree with her classmates' action, that they'd walked out and that it was terribly rude. It turned out that she was also a party member, or at least associated with the party. So in spite of the fact that the coalition had tried to set up everything so it would look good, it was still a complete fiasco. So that was extremely gratifying. Anyway, I should probably stop there. I'm sure nobody really wants to hear me banging on about politics, but I think it might be a useful thing. You let me know in the comments. It might be a useful thing if I can sort of try in a slightly neutral way to put across the events that have been happening, maybe on a sort of monthly basis. Let me know what you think. Anyway, I'm glad I've got that off my chest. If you don't like politics, my apologies. Don't worry. I won't be going there too often. Please watch the other podcasts, which tend to be more about cultural issues and food. Those are my areas of expertise, I would say. Do subscribe, like, share, click notification icons and stuff like that. Thank you very much for listening. It's been a pleasure as always. I've been James. This has been the Blorecast. Thank you and goodbye.